Okay, so as we've discussed, students are pretty comfortable using questions as hooks. Unfortunately, those questions are often boring. They can even be distracting. They're certainly ordinary at the very best. And so when we're looking at creating a hook, we want to create a sensational hook. We want to really pull the audience in. Um, I just want to let you know I did all of these hooks, just kind of came up with the topic and looked up a couple of statistics and came up with these hooks, four different approaches to this in less than 10 minutes. Now, of course, I've been doing this for years, so I kind of knew what I was doing in this, but this is something that you can do fairly quickly. But I'm going to give you four different strategies aside from a question. Yes, you can use a question, but I'm telling you, if you use a question, unless you do a great job of creating what's known as a rhetorical question, then you're probably going to have difficulty scoring the big points for your hook. So here are some examples of some things that would be more interesting, more what I would call sensational hooks. First of all, you can take a statistic or a fact. You can look this up about your topic, but it may already be in your notes. Just don't use something that's in your paragraphs. So let's say you had 20 note cards and you used 9 or 10 or 11 of those note cards. You have some other note cards left over. That was important enough information for you to write down. If you wrote it down, if you found it to be interesting, but it doesn't just seem to fit in with the rest of your project, maybe it would make a good hook. In this case, I found that 1% of men or people assigned male at birth would suffer from a dissociative amnesia event in their lifetimes. 2.6 of women or people assigned female at birth would do the same. So I did the quick math on that. That's basically 1.8% of all people. But I looked at, some other things here. We have approximately 1,000 students and staff in this building, and that tells me that statistically speaking, 23 of us will experience dissociative amnesia at some point in our lives. That would be a great way. I mean, you don't introduce this at all. This is the first thing out of your mouth. You stand up in front of us. When it's time for you to go, you say, we have approximately 1,000 students and staff in this building. And statistically, that means that 23 of us will experience dissociative amnesia at some point in our lives. Don't introduce your introduction. Let the hook do the work for you. Another way of doing the hook would be to create a hypothetical, something that didn't happen, but you're asking the audience to put themselves in the place of somebody that this would happen to. So, imagine is a good way of starting one like this. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that you don't know who you are, where you are, or who the people around you are. This situation will become a startling reality for nearly 2% of our population. At that point, you would have to transition to get to where your thesis statement is. So you need one or two sentences as a transition to get there. But that is a hook that will get people interested in your presentation. Another option is to use a metaphor or a simile. This one's not very good, but for some people, a brain is like a bucket with a large hole in it. It's supposed to carry important things, but those things can leak out at an alarming rate. Now, that's really corny. I might even do a better job because we're talking about forgetfulness of making a simile or a metaphor to compare memory loss to what Charlie Gordon went through, since we all have that common experience. But I'm just trying to give you the idea of some of the options here. The fourth option is a quotation. You can look for, since we're talking about amnesia and loss of memory, I looked up quotes about memory. I found this one. I had to look through 10, 15, 20 quotes before I found one that thought really captured what I was going for. So here is a quotation. And again, just first words out of my mouth. Author and celebrity Oscar Wilde once said, "Memory is the diary we all carry around with us." Some of us, unfortunately, will eventually lose the key to our diary and our memories will be lost. And at that point, you would transition to your thesis, but we've hooked the audience. That's the whole goal here. So we have the quotation, the metaphor or the simile, we have the hypothetical, and we also have a fact or statistic. Those are four ways that are typically better at this age group than asking a question as your hook.